all the time.
Nah. Leading off, and in the host seat, he's no longer the sports director, but that doesn't mean you got rid of him. He's the dictionary definition of a five-tool player. If those tools are bad takes, being loud, constantly late, and defending the Reds until the day he dies. Standing 6'2" on a really good day. Weighing a $160 soaking wet, here's Neal. Batting second, he's like the leadoff hitter but with less patience. He constantly confuses matches for games. He's a 2-time self-awarded baseball coach of the year, which he will tell you constantly. He might be the worst office basketball player in WWSU history, literally. Standing 5'10", weighing maybe 130, here's Parker Testa. Alright, now that those BS intros are out of the way, let's get on with the show.
Hello and welcome to Keep It Real live in the studio of WWSU 106.9. I'm Neal, alongside with me Parker Testa. Parker, we're not in two different states, and it isn't 2 o'clock in the morning. God bless.
God bless is right, Shay. This is awesome. It feels so good to be back here in the studio.
We just had a really good meeting talking about Fall Fest first weekend. Hey, by the way, we just finished the official WWSU playlist for the back-to-campus parties, and I hate to toot our own horn, but I think it's safe to say we're back.
We toot our own horn all the time.
You're right. You're right.
I
don't even know why I'm trying to pretend to be modest. I'm not.
Whatever. It's all right. We're having fun. It's good to be back here today. We got a heck of a show for y'all.
We do. It's really, really exciting. Hour number 2, we're going to have our Conference USA college football preview that we couldn't get to on Friday because of the Horizon League tier list, which, by the way, was awesome.
You did not watch that show.
Oh, my goodness.
Once we're done here today, go watch it, because that was we might not top wherever.
It'll be hard.
We're going to have good shows this week, but I don't think it's going to be it's going to be really hard to top what we did.
It is going to be difficult, but that's coming up in hour number 2. Here in hour number 1, we got a lot of baseball to get into. MLB.com released an article today that I really, really like. 17 teams right now are in contention for the playoffs. Some have already pretty much locked up a spot. Some are, fighting for a division title. Some are like the Reds and just clawing their way just to get in some way or the other. But every team's biggest difference maker for contenders. That'll be interesting because we're hitting the home stretch, Parker. It's the March to October. We're finally, it's the hunt. One of my favorite hashtags on social media is the hunt for the Reds October, and that's where we're at right now. So, also, it wouldn't be an episode of Keep It Real if I didn't talk Reds, but this is a big story. This isn't just me complaining that they lost to the Marlins or something. Joey Votto got his 2,000th career hit last night.
He did, and it's a heck of an accomplishment. I mean, are you kidding me? 2,000 hits. I couldn't get one hit if I tried. So
I think you could put Joey Votto on the mound and I couldn't get one hit.
I couldn't put one in play. So it's really amazing. He's gone off this year. He really has. And it's something that we thought would it surprised everybody. Mm-hmm. There are guys that when they hit 30, even 30, that they take a steep drop off, but Votto hasn't done that. He's 37 years old.
Right. He turns 38 in 3 weeks, and it's been a really, really cool experience and journey for Reds fans because, I mean, we saw for 2.5 years Joey Votto just didn't look good. He didn't play good from like mid-2018 up until the end of last season. Had no power, was hitting it like a 240 clip, just not the Joey Votto we're used to seeing. A lot of errors on defense. He's never been a great runner on the bases, but, just even more mistakes there as well. But we were starting to think, oh no, he has 4 more years on this contract and he's turning into the next Cabrera, the next Pujols. But credit to this guy for turning it around. And I'm not saying that Cabrera and Pujols aren't Hall of Famers, because they most certainly are. But at 37, almost 38 years old, the fact that you're able to find your swing again, the fact that you're able to get this power back. Parker, he's been the best player in baseball since the All-Star break. And I'm not saying that as a Reds fan. He's been the best player in baseball since the All-Star break.
And I never would have seen that coming.
No.
You expect guys like Judge, guys
Tatis,
like Trout, those guys to be that good. But it's been Votto.
37-year-old Joey Votto.
Yeah, almost 40-year-old Votto who's lighting up baseball right now. Lighting up the National League, not just the National League, not just the NL Central, but the entirety of Major League Baseball.
He hit 12 home runs in like a 9-game stretch. He's almost 38.
He's hitting home runs at a clip like Ohtani.
Yeah.
And that's unbelievable to say because Ohtani's, I think he's the home run leader still.
And Ohtani's 25. Ohtani's in the prime of his career.
Yeah, and it's insane to say that because Ohtani's been arguably the best player all season, and and people would probably agree with that statement. But since the All-Star break, it's been Votto, and he's playing lights out.
Yeah, and I don't think Votto will win MVP. I don't think he's had a strong enough full season to win MVP, but he will get votes for MVP. And that's crazy with the situation that we've had. Like I said, this was a guy that we thought was turning into the next Cabrera, the next Pujols of, oh boy, he's making $30 million a year to hit 215 with no power. And the fact that he's turned this around again, Cabrera and Pujols are first ballot Hall of Famers, and I don't want this to sound like I don't think they're Hall of Famers, but the way that Joey Votto's turned this career around, turned this season around, this is why he's a Hall of Famer. And I tweeted it last night, and I've always believed Joey Votto would get into the Hall of Fame at some point, but it's been kind of a on the ropes, 50-50 kind of coin flip conversation. But I think this season's really locked him in. 37, almost 38 years old, putting up MVP caliber numbers, competing with some of the best players in the league in their prime. I think if the Reds make the playoffs this season, Votto will have MVP votes. I think this season's locked him in as a Hall of Famer, and I think it's cemented him as one of the greatest Cincinnati Reds of all time.
Yeah, and it has. I mean, to be in conversations with guys like Griffey, guys
Bench,
like
Rose.
Joe Morgan, those kind of guys is an accomplishment. And Votto's up there in the top 5 as best Reds of all time, and he's done it. We see so many times, time and time again, guys leave their cities that they've been in forever to go win a championship. And Votto hasn't done that, surprisingly. And he's had his opportunities to do that, but he hasn't. He's stayed faithful to Cincinnati, faithful to Bob Castellini, and that's and I'm actually impressed that he has because it's no secret that the Reds haven't been very good for a while
Their
now.
ownership is just not great.
No, and it's unfortunate to say that's true to both teams in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The Bengals look like they're going to come out and have a good year, hopefully.
It's frustrating, and just from a Reds fan's point of view, it's frustrating because this team is good enough to be a contender. And they have had very clear holes all season long in the bullpen at shortstop. With just depth all around the field, an extra bat in the outfield, and the fact that the ownership would rather be a mediocre team to save a few dollars on the paycheck than recognize that this is a really talented team and try to go for a World Series. I think that's what's been more frustrating than anything for Reds fans.
And I don't get why. I see your Twitter, and when I see your Twitter, I see all of Reds Twitter, and that's everybody freaks out and the Reds fans have a very similar mindset as I do when it comes to my favorite teams, in that when things are good, things are really good, and when things are bad, they're horrible.
Right.
So,
well, you mentioned it last night. The Reds looked spectacular last night.
They did.
If they could play the Cubs and Pirates all year long, they'd win 100 games.
And I know you've been saying that since August or since April, and that the Cubs are terrible and the Pirates are terrible, and if we could play them the entire year, we'd have 110 wins and be World Series contenders.
The Reds are I think I got to double check this stat, but I think the Reds are 35-18 this year against the Central. They beat teams in their division. The big thing that's holding them back is they went 2-18 against the Giants, Diamondbacks, and Padres. That's awful because they're almost 20 games over 500 against their own division. They're 25 games over 500 against the National League, but they won 2 games against 3 teams, and that's not good.
No, it's not. And one thing that you said that I think is really true when it comes to the Reds is it seems like they were very streaky up until the All-Star break, to where they'd win 6 or 7 in a row and then come out and lose that next 6 or 7. But since the All-Star break, they're a 750, 800 winning team.
Yeah,
and it's impressive.
I still think it's a little frustrating just watching them on a daily basis, because I agree with you that since the All-Star break, really since the end of June or so, they've done a great job at winning more games than they lose. They're winning 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 now, and it's gotten them from 5 games under 500 to 500 to now to 10 games over. And when was the last time the Reds were 10 games over 500 in August? It's been a decade.
What, like 2010 or something like that?
I think 2012 they won 98 games, and I think 2013 they made the wild card. So I'm going to guess it was 2013.
So it's been almost
a decade.
Yeah, like you said, and it's impressive to say that the Reds are what I think is a team that has surprised everybody.
Yeah.
A team like the Giants. No one thought the Giants would be as good as they are.
Right.
They have the most wins in the entire Major League Baseball right now. They have 77 wins. And the Reds are another surprise team, and on the flip side of that, there's teams that we thought would be good that aren't. Teams like the Twins,
the Braves up until 2 weeks ago,
right? And it's insane to say
the
that
Mets have been really underwhelming.
Yeah, and I think that's in part to they can't score, and I feel
DeGrom's been hurt.
I feel bad for a guy like DeGrom that when healthy, he's the best pitcher in baseball, and he just gets no run support. So I think that's one thing that we want to see more from the Reds in that.
Yeah.
I don't think scoring's an issue. It's been where to the point where the pitching staff has been up and down.
Right.
But over the past few weeks, pitching's been lights out for the Reds.
It has, and the only reason why it's still frustrating, because they are winning more than they're losing, is because when they lose, I feel like it's games that they shouldn't lose, whether it's to a team that they're better than, whether it's to because of they've lost, I think I saw they've lost 8 games since the beginning of July that they had a lead in the 7th inning or later. You just can't do that and expect to make the playoffs. If you have a lead in the 7th, you got to hold it. And so it's just when the Reds lose, it's a frustrating loss, but they have won more than they've lost. But we're going to take a quick break because we have one of our friends stopping by the station. When we get back, each contender's biggest X factors, we come down the stretch. But Parker, really quick, I want to hear from a non-Reds fan's perspective. Joey Votto gets his 2000th career hit. I want to hear two answers from you. One, do you believe Joey Votto is a Hall of Famer? And two, the Padres are trending down and have a really tough schedule. The Reds are trending up and have a really easy schedule. Do you think the Reds have enough in the tank to make the playoffs?
I think they'll make the playoffs. The Padres, like you said, are on a bit of a downslope right now. They haven't been winning as consistently as we thought they would.
And they have a lot of games left against the Dodgers and Giants.
And it's surprising to say that because the Padres are really good, or they have the potential to be really good with the talent that they have. They traded for Adam Frazier at the deadline.
Cronenworth, Tatis, Machado,
right? They still have so much star power and so much firepower. Their pitching just hasn't been great. Snell has been underwhelming.
I'm not afraid to admit it. The Padres are better than the Reds on paper, but the difference is right now the Reds are playing better baseball.
They are, and I don't know why the Padres are struggling like they are, and I really have no answer for it. But I think as far as your Votto Hall of Fame question, it's really tough to
2,000 hits, 300 home runs, 1,000 RBIs. He's actually I do want to point this out. He's the second player in the history of baseball to get his 300th home run, his 1,000th RBI, and his 2,000th hit all in the same season, joining Billy Williams in 1971. So it's been one heck of a milestone year for Joey Votto.
It's really tough to say that, and I don't know how you. This is tough. Votto's going to be one of those fringe players. He's not going to get in first ballot.
No,
it's going to be towards the end of his Hall of Fame eligibility to where I think he'll get in. And I think he will get in. It's going to be tough to put him in without a World Series championship.
I think what helps him is the fact that he's a top 3 Canadian player of all time.
Yeah, right. And I think as we have one of our DJ Control messages, can Christian crash the show? Of course. We're going to go to break.
Yeah, we're literally in 30 seconds about to take a break, and absolutely.
If he wants to join us, he's more than welcome.
Absolutely.
The more the merrier. But I think Votto will eventually be a Hall of Famer, and I do think the Reds make the playoffs.
Okay. Well, I love to hear that answer. So we're going to step away for just a moment. If you're just now joining us, Joey Votto gets his 2000th career hit last night. When we come back, 17 teams fighting for playoff spots. Who's the biggest X factor on each one? You're listening to Testa and Neal, Keep It Real, right here on WWSU 106.9 and YouTube.
Hey, everyone. Check out Rush Week 2021, presented by Alpha Sig Eta Psi here on campus. To find out more information, check out their Instagram at ALPHASIGS_WSU. You're going to love it.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. Done. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
For those fortunate enough to help the person who has always been their hero, AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Every day, men and women from communities across this nation serve as Reserve Citizen Airmen.
I am proud to defend our nation.
Proud to be part of a team that helps make a difference.
I am proud to be part of something larger than me and to serve my country.
We celebrate those who have served and those who are proudly serving in the Air Force Reserve. Our mission is to fly, fight, and win in air, space, and cyberspace.
I am proud to be a member. I am proud to protect our...
Proud to serve in the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
If you love them enough to barely sleep, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
How do airplanes fly? What's in this box? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Learn how to store your gun securely and make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. That's right. They can help save lives by simply washing their hands. Just 20 seconds of thorough hand washing after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside can help fight against the dastardly spread of germs. Armed with only soap and water and hands, your superhero can protect you, your family, and everyone out there in America land. Amazing! Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To protect her home and family in a disaster, Karen was willing to wade through water, mud, and insurance paperwork.
Yeah, I can do this.
You go, Karen! By simply understanding and updating what her insurance covers and doesn't cover now, she'll be better prepared no matter when disaster strikes. Learn other simple ways to protect your home and family before a natural disaster at ready.gov. That's ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
What can I possibly do to make this stressful time a little better? Here's one thing I found. It's a small thing, a simple thing, a remarkable thing. Smile. You can share a smile from more than 6 feet apart. You can share it socially with the whole world. In fact, right now, I'm smiling at you. And I hope you're smiling back, because smiling is in you. From PassItOn.com.
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can. But it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
They say singing can help you remember things. So here's some tips for parents out there during these tough times.
Number 1. Make sure your kids wash their hands for 20 seconds after they've coughed or sneezed or been outside. 2. Virtual play dates. Social and physical distancing can help save lives. 3. Tell them they're safe and show your love and pride. Yes, we'll get through this together.
Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Melissa from Michigan. I work an extra part-time job serving lunch at my child's school, but I still can't afford to put food on our table.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all.
Now we can't even pay for meals.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Every day, men and women from communities across this nation serve as Reserve Citizen Airmen.
I am proud to defend our nation.
Proud to be part of a team that helps make a difference.
I am proud to be part of something larger than me.
We celebrate those who have served and those who are proudly serving in the Air Force Reserve. Our mission is to fly, fight, and win in air, space, and cyberspace.
I am proud to be a member. I am proud to protect our...
Proud to serve in the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
AFReserve.com.
If you love them enough to sit through their favorite boy band with them, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
My mother was very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Social distancing slows the spread of coronavirus. So if you have a fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going in. More info at coronavirus.gov. Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council. A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Dayton's Right Choice.
You are listening to Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on Dayton's Right Choice, WWSU 106.9 FM.
All right, we are back here on Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on WWSU 106.9 and our YouTube feed. A little bit of a weird start today. We ran a little late on a meeting, so we started off about 10, 12 minutes late. And we also had one of our good friends, Christian Peters, stop by. So we had a little bit of an extended break at a weird time, but... you know, that's the beauty of doing this show live. We don't know what we're doing when we record in advance, but we really don't know what we're doing live.
Right. You think it'd be the other way around, but whatever. We're having fun. So, MLB standings.
I am excited.
Oh, my gosh.
There's a lot of, every single year it feels like it's better than the last in terms of how many teams are in the thick of playoff contention, but this year, there's a lot of really good teams fighting for not a lot of spots.
No, and both leagues.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Red Sox and the A's that are at the wild. They're both
Yankees
wild
are
card
red
spots.
hot though.
Both wild card spots right now for the American League. You have the Yankees a game and a half back. You got the Blue Jays that are 4 back.
Yeah, the Yankees are red hot,
and the Mariners that are 5 back. So those are 5 really good teams, all within 5 games of the wild card spots. Yeah. And then these next 2 teams I think are. They have a chance if they get real hot, and that's the Angels and the Indians. But
I think Cleveland's done.
Cleveland's out. The Angels still have a shot. It's a long shot.
If Trout comes back.
Right. It's a long shot, and I'm hoping that for the sake of my take earlier this summer that the Angels would make the playoffs. But if they don't, that's okay. I'm wrong again. What else is new? But
to be fair, we expected them to get a bigger piece at the deadline than they did.
Right.
So.
They added a few pieces.
I thought they were going to get Scherzer.
Yeah, I did too. And of course, I thought they'd be a good team, and they are a good team. They're just plagued with injuries. And
they're just not as good as some other teams.
Right. And I think if they can get some of those guys back, they have a shot at the playoffs. But these 5 teams at the top are really good for the AL.
So let's get into this. This is each contender's biggest X factor. This is from Anthony Castrovins of MLB.com. There's 17 teams, Parker, within 5.5 games of a playoff spot. So with each of these 17 teams, let's talk about their biggest X factor. Let's start with the Boston Red Sox. It's a guy that we've been talking about since April, Chris Sale. He came back on Saturday, and he was electric. His stuff was really, really good for his first game in 2 years. 5 innings, gave up 2 runs on 2 home runs, but it's his first game in 2 years. I'll cut him a little bit of slack. Chris Sale looked really, really good, and it's not a secret. We've been saying this all year long. It takes a lot of pressure off Eduardo Rodriguez. He now only has to be a solid 2 instead of carrying the staff. If Chris Sale can be anything like the Chris Sale before Tommy John, the Red Sox are not out of this division race by any means.
No, and as much, and I'm actually surprised. I'm not surprised, but it's kind of surprising that this is Sale. He looked, like you said, he looked really good on Saturday. Another guy in their starting rotation that I think that is really key to them making a push is Erod. He's been kind of sluggish to start the year. Start the year. We're more than halfway through, but
he was strong in his last game though.
He was, and I think if both Sale and Erod get their stuff and they get it soon and at the right
Boston
time,
offense is lethal.
It is with Devers, with Bogarts,
Devers is about to get a Brinks truck backed into his yard this offseason.
With Martinez, and then they just got Schwarber. So they have lots of
They
talent.
also picked up Travis Shaw.
Yeah. I think that was yesterday they did that.
2 days ago, maybe.
Yeah, yesterday, the day before.
But I think he's going to play first base until Schwarber's ready.
Right, and I think they'll platoon both those guys at first. So that's key here for the Red Sox is their pitching staff. Especially Sale and Erod. This next one, Tatis with the Padres. Yeah, really.
The Padres are Padres look like a below average baseball team without Tatis in the lineup, and then Tatis came back his first game, not yesterday, the day before, 2 home runs and a double. And I mean, love or hate him, I know he gets a lot of attention and a lot of people dislike him just because of how much attention he gets. He's one heck of a baseball player, and he makes the Padres 10 times better.
Yeah. And we talked about the Padres a little earlier that they're kind of sluggish right now. And that a lot of that goes to a lot of that sluggishness goes towards their pitching staff. But Corey Kluber with the Yankees is an interesting one as well. You could pick between 8 or 10 guys with the Yankees.
You can.
And one thing I want to say here, just a second, for the Yankees, this no facial hair rule that the Yankees have put in place is the dumbest thing.
Gallo without a beard is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Why? What's the point of this? I mean,
now I think Kluber's a good answer.
Right.
I think it's very possible. I think if we knew more about Luis Severino's timeline, you could easily say Severino because that dude's got great stuff. I mean, he was the ace before Cole got there. But somebody that I really expect, or I think if the Yankees want to make a run, somebody that's really got to pick it up. He has not been as strong as he's been in years past. DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah.
We need to see all-star DJ LeMahieu come back.
Right, and he's been
okay. They need good DJ LeMahieu.
He's been okay, but he's been a weak point in that Yankees lineup, and that's insane to say that LeMahieu's a weak point in that lineup as the leadoff hitter. But
he got to New York and he started hitting doubles and home runs, and he was an MVP candidate. And now he's still hitting 285, but all those doubles and home runs are just singles. And I mean, he's still getting on base, I guess, but they need a little bit more pop out of DJ LeMahieu if they're going to really be a serious contender.
Yeah, they do. And I think that the Yankees, we didn't know what they would do after the All-Star break. Both of us thought they would get hot, and they have, with Gallo and the talent that they have there. Marte in Oakland is one.
He's been great.
He has been. I didn't know how they'd use him.
Laureano got suspended and made that really easy, didn't it?
Yeah. I thought he'd be a platoon guy at all 3 outfield spots for Bob Melvin, but with Laureano's being suspended, Marte's been lights out.
Yeah, he has. He might be the best trade deadline ad out of any team. Now, when we talked about the trade deadline stuff, we thought maybe giving up Luzardo was a little bit too much. But so far, I mean, Luzardo has not been that great in Miami, and Marte has been one of the best players in baseball since the A's got him. So we're only a half year into this trade, and we're going to be evaluating it over the next couple of years of Luzardo's career. But as of right now, sure seems like Oakland knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue with them, but I guess it's looked really good for them.
They're the West Coast Rays.
They are, and I love the A's. You got Murphy, a Wright State alum, as your catcher. Like you said, Laureano was suspended, but they have Marte.
Matt Olson's playing like an MVP.
Olson, they have Canna as well in the outfield.
Starting to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah, and Andrus has been underwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's.
But they have two. They have two of the best quote unquote bench guys in all of baseball, in Canna and Pinder. Those guys can play any position on the field, and they'd start for 95% of teams in baseball.
And I said this after they traded for Marte with Laureano, Canna, and Steven Piscotty in that outfield. Well, not Laureano anymore, but with I thought Piscotty was the weak point in that outfield, and I thought Marte would play a lot of right field. But I think it's been a great ad for the Oakland A's.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. Let's move on to your Dodgers. Clayton Kershaw. He's been shut down twice with some arm injuries. The Dodgers hope he can come back in September, but he's obviously going to be a big piece for this team in the playoffs. Obviously, they have Scherzer, they have Buehler. But if they can get Kershaw back and throwing at a semi-Kershaw level, I mean, that might be the best three-headed monster in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's possible. And this is a team that I have been, like we said earlier, the Dodgers are my team, and I'm very up and down. When things are good, they're real good. When things are bad, they're real bad.
They're one of the most frustrating, really good teams I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable.
Because they're really, really good, but it also seems like they agitate you on a nightly basis because they should be better.
We were watching Dodgers and
Mets,
the other night, and I just annoyed for half that game, the second half of that game, and it's unbelievable.
And it's funny because the Dodgers ended up winning.
Yeah, and Bellinger's been atrocious at the plate all year. He's batting like 170, and which
Suarez.
It's frustrating to say the least. We'll get into the Dodgers more, as we get closer to the playoffs. I don't want to waste my energy on a team that aggravates me on a weekly basis.
Yeah,
Ian Kennedy.
This has been a great ad for the Phillies.
It has, and this is one that the Phillies needed to add to their bullpen, and Kennedy's been lights out for them.
Yeah, he has. He started off really poorly, gave up 3 home runs in his first 4 games, but ever since then, I think he's only given up 1 run, and he's just been, for the first time in 4 or 5 years, the Phillies bullpen has guys that are veteran arms that can get outs. Archie Bradley, as well as Jose Alvarado, as well as now Ian Kennedy, as well as Hector Neris is okay. He should never pitch the 9th, but now that you have Ian Kennedy, Hector Neris can pitch the 7th, and he's actually pretty solid in the 7th. So, this Phillies bullpen is definitely not good by any means, but it's a lot less bad than it was a couple months ago and definitely a couple years ago. So, I think adding Ian Kennedy, I don't know if it gets them to the playoffs because they're going to have to fight with the Reds and Padres for the wild card, and they're going to have to fight with the Braves for the division. The Braves look really, really good right now. But I think it definitely made them a better baseball team.
So Sebastian on our YouTube feed said, can we talk college football week 0? It's only 4 games. We'll get to college football.
Yeah, hour number 2 is all college football.
Yeah, so stick around. We have a Conference USA preview, and then we'll go over the week 0 games.
Absolutely.
Those are Nebraska, Illinois, Hawaii, UCLA, UConn, Fresno State, Southern Utah, and San Jose State.
Good to say college football's back.
And then UTEP and New Mexico State. So we'll get there, Sebastian. So stick around for that.
It feels good to say college football's back.
Yeah, that it is. It's really I'm really excited for it. Darno with the Braves. He's been. I don't know what to make of him. I don't. He's had moments where he's been good, and moments where he's been rough.
Yeah, I think it's a fair choice. I think Darno is obviously very important to the Braves' success. I'm not worried about the Braves' offense. Riley's playing great. Swanson's playing great. Freeman's back. Ozzie Albies is unbelievably good. Yeah, I know they don't have Acuna. Yeah, I know they don't have Ozuna. I'm not worried about the offense. My X factor for the Braves would be Will Smith. Will Smith has not been that great as their closer this year. He's gotten himself into a lot of tough situations. His ERA is like 3.8, which is not what you want out of your closer. The Braves want to make the playoffs. If the Braves want to win the NL East, and if the Braves want to knock out a team like the Brewers or the Giants, they got to have a closer that they can count on to get outs. So my X factor is Will Smith. He's got to figure something out.
Yeah, and their bullpen's crucial because it's been up and down this year in Atlanta in their bullpen, as the whole team's been up and down to say the least. But they lost Ozuna, they lost Acuna. But they're still fighting, and they still have a chance here to make the. Yeah, they are. So Carrasco with the Mets. The Mets have been, like you said earlier, underwhelming. I'm not a Luis Rojas fan, and if the Mets weren't at the division contenders, I think Luis Rojas would have been gone by now.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. The Mets are an interesting case.
See, I get it. Carrasco is a really successful pitcher that has not played well, and they need him to play well if they want to win this division. But how do you not go with Jacob deGrom as their X factor? The best pitcher on the planet with an injury that we don't know how long he's going to be out for. I'll sum it up for you as best as I can. If the Mets want to win the division, the Mets want to make the playoffs, they need Jacob deGrom on the mound. Jacob deGrom is the X factor of this team. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I know that was probably just the journalist saying, I don't want to pick the obvious answer, but it's the obvious answer. It's Jacob deGrom.
You pick Tatis. That's the obvious answer. Right. You got to pick deGrom here.
It's deGrom.
And I understand the reasoning behind why it's Carrasco, because he's struggled since he came back from
If you
the
don't
injury.
say deGrom, say Syndergaard.
Right. And I know why he did it, because of the, he's had a 10.32 ERA in his last 4 starts. And I understand why you picked that. But it's got to be deGrom because he's the best pitcher on the planet. And if they get him back, the Mets are obviously a playoff contender.
Well, the Mets were comfortably in first place all year when deGrom was healthy. And now when he's hurt, they're not in first place anymore. They're actually down to third. So a little bit of correlation here. I think they're a pretty good team when deGrom's on the mound.
Yeah. This Reds one I like a lot.
It's okay.
I like it.
They have the right idea, but I'd go with a different guy.
It's Michael Lorenzen.
Mm-hmm.
And
he hasn't allowed a run yet since he's come back.
He's pitched well. He's 9 2/3, and he hasn't allowed a run. And they're going to get Anton back here shortly as well.
Yes.
Which both these guys make this team better.
Yes.
And Heath Hembry is
awful.
A guy I know that you love.
Gave up 5 runs last night in the 8th. He's going to be DFA'd as soon as Anton comes back. But I think David Bell was playing a game of Russian roulette with his bullpen arms last night and pitching all the worst ones since we were up by 12 and saying, all right, who wants to get DFA'd when Anton comes back? And Hembry wins the prize. So, but Lorenzen's been a huge piece for the Reds. He hasn't allowed a run yet since he came back. And Lord knows the Reds bullpen needed some stability, and Lorenzen has given them some stability. Michael Givens has been a godsend, too. He hasn't allowed a run yet since the Reds traded for him. Reds Twitter's already talking about giving Michael Givens a 4-year extension, and I'm with him. I mean, this guy's nails. He comes in so many tight situations and gets big outs. I love Michael Givens. But for me, the X factor for the Reds is TJ Antone.
Right.
TJ Antone's the nastiest pitcher on this team besides Luis Castillo. He's got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, disgusting curveball. They call him Captain Hook. But TJ Antone can get you outs in the 5th. He can get you outs in the 7th. He can close games. TJ Antone's such a big piece for this bullpen.
Yeah.
If he's healthy and on his game, he can single-handedly take this bullpen from one of the worst in the league to average.
And I love the Reds Pirates, or not Pirates, but the Reds Pirate theme to where you have Captain Hook and then Indians walk-up song is Jack Sparrow.
And his nickname's the Red Sparrow, yeah.
Yeah, right. So I love it. The Reds are hot right now.
Oh,
so,
they played really well last night. And with Gutierrez on the mound tonight, he's been a really strong rookie. So, the Reds go for another win and try to take the series from the Cubs. But honestly, the way the Cubs are playing right now, I'd be disappointed if they couldn't find a way to sweep at home.
Yeah, and that's I'm with you. Brad Hand with the Blue Jays, and he's had a rough go of it in close games, to say the least. They struggle to keep the lead late in games, but they're still up there as contenders in this division.
They are, and it's because their offense is just so dang good. But shout out to Marcus Semien, by the way. He's going to get a nice contract after the year is over. And I think he will stay in Toronto because I think the entire country of Canada would revolt if they let Marcus Semien leave. But Brad Hand hadn't had the best year by any means before the Jays traded for him, and the Jays were hoping, change of place, new place, new me, new whatever it's called, whatever the saying is. But he hasn't been that great yet. He's given up a lot of home runs. He's walking guys. Brad Hand is a guy that has had many, many more years of success than failure, but they need him to find that success switch here pretty soon.
Yeah, they do, and it's tough to say that with the Blue Jays, who have been lights out, with guys like Guerrero, guys like Bichette, Semien, Springer. Those guys have been lights out.
Springer's been so good. He was out the whole first half of the year, but since he's come back, oh my goodness,
provided a whole new spark to.
Well,
to the Blue Jays.
Just run through this offense. Springer, all-star. Semien, all-star. Guerrero, probably the MVP runner-up to Shohei Ohtani. Bichette, one of the best young players in baseball. Teoscar Hernandez has revived his career in Toronto. Grichuk, one of the best depth outfielders in baseball. Kevin Biggio, still got a ton of talent. Danny Jansen's got some pop in his bat. This offense is disgusting, Parker.
It's awesome. The Blue Jays have been average, for a long time. But they look really good.
They do,
and I like the way that I like what Charlie Montoya's doing, and I like the way that they're
coming after this division. It's a tough division with the Yankees, Rays, Red Sox, and I think it's arguably the most competitive division in all of baseball.
I'd say it is for sure.
But it's really fun to say the least. Bregman in Houston. This Astros team has been good. I mean, we all knew they'd be good.
Yeah.
But Bregman's been he's been he's another one of these guys.
Yeah. For me, I mean, this is a lot like the Braves, where when they said, who'd they say for the Braves? Darno. I'm not worried about the Astros offense. Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Yuli Gurriel's having the best year of his career. Jose Altuve looks like an all-star again. Correa's having an outstanding season. Yeah, Bregman's an important piece, but I don't think if Bregman struggles, it kills the team. What I think would really hurt the team is the bullpen. So for me, I went back and forth between Graveman and Presley. I'm going to go with Presley because Graveman's had a really strong year, and he's been really, really good since he got to Houston. Presley has had a solid year, but I still think he's capable of better. If you're going to be the closer for a team that wants to knock out, the Rays and the White Sox and the Red Sox, I mean, if you want to be the ninth inning guy for a team that's trying to win a championship, you got to be rocks. You got to be nails night in, night out.
Yeah, you do. And the Astros have been, they're leading the AL West like we all thought they would.
Mm-hmm.
But there's competition there. I think the Astros win the division.
I do too.
They'll make the playoffs. If you're an Astros fan, I don't think you have anything to worry about. But this one is another one.
Easy one.
For the Rays, Wander Franco, who has been, he was off to a hot start when he was first called up, but he's kind of fallen back to earth here a little bit. As he's gotten into a bit of a groove here. He's 238, 301, 400 through his first 40. And so he's been not terrible, but not great. He's not on the level that he was when he started here, when he was first called up. But he had a monster home run over the Green Monster in Boston last week to win the Rays the game. But he's been this is another one for the Rays.
Yeah, and this is it's not the greatest stat line you've ever seen, especially for a number one overall prospect. But you got to keep in mind that this kid's 20 years old, and he's trying to figure out how to play in the toughest league of baseball in the world. What I have seen from Wander Franco so far that I really, really like is he has power from both sides of the plate, which is really, really hard to find. I'm talking guys like Ozzie Albies. I'm talking guys like, how many switch hitters are there in baseball that you can think of have power from both sides of the plate? There's not many of them. I love that Wander Franco has power from both sides of the plate. He probably has a little bit more power as a lefty, but he can hit home runs as a righty. Great defender at shortstop. Unbelievable arm. Great range. We knew he was going to be a natural at shortstop, and he has been. And something that I've seen that I really, really like is he's clutch. And for a 20-year-old kid to not be phased in a moment like that where they were trailing to a team like Boston and he hits the go-ahead home run over the Green Monster, you can teach consistency. You can teach differences in swing mechanics. What you can't teach is being locked in big moments, being clutch, being dialed in when the game's on the line. And for a 20-year-old kid like Wander Franco to be already dialed in big moments, I have no doubt in my mind that this is a budding superstar in Tampa Bay.
He is. DeSclafani.
What a year Tony Disco's had.
Man,
what
unbelievable.
A year.
Unbelievable. So this is our last one before we have to hit our top hour break. But the Giants have been unbelievable, and I've talked about them early in the year as a team that I didn't think would be very good. Boy, was I wrong. They've been lights out with Posey.
Their pitching staff's been nasty. Alex Wood, Gausman, DeSclafani, Cueto's had a bounce back year. I mean, this pitching staff is great.
Posey's been he's revived his career this season.
Crawford.
Brandon Belt, Crawford. There's so many guys here, and they added Chris Bryant as well.
And Bryant just hit 2 bombs yesterday.
Yeah, he did. So this Giants team is really good.
They're good.
And I had a feeling they'd slow down, but they haven't.
No.
So they, like I said,
this team's going to win 100 games.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, they have 77 wins right now, but most in all of baseball as we sit here on August 17th. But this is a team that looks real strong.
They sure do. And Tony Disco has been just so crucial for this team. They had so many question marks heading into the year, Parker. Could Gausman be an elite pitcher 2 years in a row? Could Alex Wood bounce back? Could Tony Disco take that next step? Everything worked out for this team. Tony Disco's been a stud this year. I mean, he's been so good. And I mean, yes, part of me as a Reds fan is frustrated because he was average with the Reds and he looks great. But part of me, Tony Disco worked his butt off in Cincinnati and got a lot of bad luck with injuries and a lot of bad luck with, unfortunate, I don't know if you've ever heard the term getting BABIP'd to death, where it's just a lot of not hard hit contact that just finds holes and kind of unlucky runs given up and stuff like that. That seemed to sum up Tony Disco's time in Cincinnati. So overall, yeah, I'm a little frustrated that he didn't pitch like this with the Reds, but very, very happy for him because this is a guy that works his tail off, and he deserves the success he's having this year. And he's a big piece for this Giants team.
He does. We're going to take a quick break, about 2 or 3 minutes. We won't keep you long.
4 more teams to get to.
Yes. 4 more teams in this topic, then we'll get to college football. So stay with us. You're listening to Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on WWSU 106.9 and on YouTube. Don't go away.
Pass it on. This time of upheaval is causing me to look a little deeper inside myself, looking for some goodness. And this is what I've found. I'm more aware of my neighbor's well-being. I'm saying thanks to those who help keep my life as normal as possible. My mail carrier, my grocery cashier, my delivery person. I find myself caring about others instead of just looking out for myself. And oh, my goodness, does it feel good. Goodness is in you. Pass it on. From passiton.com.
This is Yarly G, and you're now listening to WWSU 106.9 FM. Fairborn, Dayton, Dayton's right choice. Yeah.
If you love them enough to listen to them practice the same song on tuba,
please be done.
Over and over and over and over and over, then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Sounds good, honey.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job?
Not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music.
This is Mommy's jam.
Then surely you'll check NHTSA.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
Their age.
The way they speak. Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Pass it on.
Now's the time to stay apart. Social distancing. But I'm adding something else. Pull together. What's pulling together while we're staying apart? It's calling family to check in on them. It's waving to your neighbor. It's the things we should have been doing all along. And when this tragedy passes and we're able to come together, we'll be stronger than ever because we've already pulled together. Stay apart. Pull together.
Pass it on.
From passiton.com.
Dad, I picked up your pills, made your lunch, and your laundry is done.
When you care for a loved one, you take care of everything. But are you taking care of yourself? Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Have you noticed lately how empty everything is? Empty streets, empty stores, empty schools. But I'm trying to change these empty times by being full of gratitude. Gratitude means saying thanks to the garbage collector, the medical providers, and all those who are helping every day. Things may appear empty around us, but when we're filled with gratitude, nothing is completely empty inside us. Gratitude is in you. From passiton.com.
To some, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
A social distancing tip.
Putting distance between yourself and others is critical to slowing the spread of coronavirus. So here are ways to stay in contact without the physical contact part. Call, send a text, set up a video conference, post on social media, dedicate a song on the radio. If you have symptoms of fever, dry cough, and shortness of breath, call your healthcare provider before going to their office. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Kenneth, and I'm a rehab major here at Wright State, and I love listening to Wright State Radio, WWSU 106.9, Dayton's Right Choice.
You are listening to Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on Dayton's Right Choice, WWSU 106.9 FM.
Hour number 2 of Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on WWSU 106.9 FM and our YouTube channel. Last week of the summer, Parker. I mean, this show's been a blast, but we're not going off air. You can't get rid of us that easy. On the Horizon's coming back with me, and the Perspective is coming back with Parker.
I'm excited. I already have an interview done, lining up some really fun.
You're ahead of the game. I'm still trying to line up when I want my show to be.
Show schedules are going to be finalized in the next week or two, so be on the lookout for that, for when those shows will be back. But a few more, I guess, contender difference makers here for baseball. Before
I really like this one with the Mariners.
I do too.
Jared Kelenic. Jared Kelenic really struggled when he came up. He was hitting 141 on August 6th, but he's looked really, really good over the last 2 weeks. He's starting to look less flustered at the plate. He's starting to take more professional at bats. He's starting to put good swings on the ball. He's looking like that top prospect that we knew he was. His walk-off walk against the Blue Jays was a big-time at bat. It's probably not enough. The Mariners probably have too deep of a hole to climb out of to catch some teams like the Yankees and the A's and the White Sox and the Red Sox and stuff like that. But they've already exceeded expectations for this year, and if Kelenic starts to pick it up, I really think they're a contender in the AL West next year.
And one thing that I think was an issue with Kelenic was his discipline, and that's why he struggled at the plate as much as he did. But that walk-off walk is discipline at its best. And I don't think there's anything more, more exciting, after a walk-off home run or anything like that. A walk-off walk It's something you don't see very often,
No.
but it's entertaining for sure.
Yeah, it is. Man, we did a show in the middle of the afternoon, and I'm still somehow yawning. What the heck is up with that? I don't know. But I can't stand the St. Louis Cardinals, Parker, but this one is 100% spot on the money. Jack Flaherty. The Cardinals, it's very, very unlikely that this team makes the playoffs. I know that they're red hot, and they're only 3 games behind the Reds right now in that wild card chase. But while the Reds play the Cubs, Pirates, and Marlins down the stretch, the Cardinals are playing the Giants, Brewers, and Mets. So if DeGrom comes back, that's a really tough slate to end the year. I don't think it's enough. I don't think that. While I think the Reds have a better offense, and I think that even though Flaherty's a huge big time pitcher, I think just the Reds are the better baseball team, and they have the easier schedule down the stretch. So sorry to Elliot if he's listening back in Noblesville, but your Cardinals are not making the playoffs. But Flaherty was really, really good over the weekend in his first game back from that really bad oblique strain. And there's no doubt that even though I despise the Cardinals, Jack Flaherty's their best pitcher and one of the best young pitchers in baseball. So if the Cardinals want any shot to make the playoffs, Jack Flaherty's got to be an ace, and he took a really big step this weekend.
Yeah, he did. And the Cardinals are they're not out of it. It's the Reds Brewers cards for this division. I think it'll be the Brewers or Reds who win. But the Cards are still in for a
Cardinals never die. That's one of the first rules. That's one of the first lessons a baseball fan can learn. The St. Louis Cardinals never die.
Right, and I think that's another it's a I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. Doesn't matter. Speaking of the Brewers, Christian Yelich.
And this one's weird, Parker. He's not really having. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he's having a bad year. But he's not really having a bad year. If you watch the Brewers games, he's hitting the ball really hard. He's just getting unlucky. He's hitting the ball right at people. He's hitting a lot of hard ground balls. He's not hitting as many home runs. I think he has like 8 home runs this year. So it's just, I think it's all in the swing. I think he's almost like chopping at the ball instead of launching. And who am I to tell Christian Yelich how to swing a baseball bat? I'm not. But I just think it's a couple minor things that Christian Yelich can fix. I don't know if he'll be back to MVP form, but I think he can definitely be back to all-star form. And he just homered a couple he had a couple RBI doubles this weekend. I think he had a home run as well. With Willie Adames looks like a stud in Milwaukee. Avi Garcia's had a really good year, as well as Omar Narvaez, as well as Colton Long. Eduardo Escobar's been a great piece. Christian Yelich figures it out. Not only is this Brewers team going to win the Central, they might win the National League.
And you are texting me constantly. Can the Brewers lose?
They never lose.
Can they play anybody but the Padres and Cubs or the Pirates and Cubs?
They don't lose, man.
Play somebody else and please lose.
Well, that's why I've started talking about how far back we are of the Padres. I've kind of given up on the Central because the Brewers aren't going to lose 8 times on days that the Reds win heading down the stretch. So, I don't know. I don't think the Reds are going to catch the Brewers.
I don't think so either.
Especially because, I mean, every time the Reds only have 1 series left against the Brewers, so they can only make up, a handful of games head-to-head. And every single big series the Brewers have down the stretch, they have a 3-headed monster, Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta. And those are 3 of the top 5 pitchers in baseball right now.
Right, and I was about to say, this pitching staff is
disgusting.
I think it's the best in baseball.
I agree. I'm with you.
So
if you somehow get past Woodruff, Burns, and Peralta, the bullpen also has Suter, Boxberger, Devin Williams, Josh Hader. They just traded for John Curtis, who's been really, really good this year. I mean, this team is disgusting. There's a reason why they're 76 and 54 or whatever it is. Like I said, not only do I think they win the Central, if Yelich turns it on, I could easily see this team knocking out the Dodgers or Giants and getting to the World Series. Their pitching's elite, and their hitting, although it's not great, it's really timely. They get a lot of big hits when they need big hits.
And that's why the Brewers are the Brewers. And that's why they're leading this division. This last one, Chicago White Sox, who's a team I love.
Mm-hmm.
They have Rodon. Did you watch any of that White Sox A's game last night?
I was getting score updates. I didn't watch the game.
So in the 6th inning, Luis Robert, I think either singled or he walked, steals second base, and then they cut to Tony La Russa in the dugout, who's giving a sign to his third base coach. The very next pitch, Zavala hits a sacrifice bunt to the pitcher. Robert scores, and it's an out. At first base.
Yeah.
But that's the baseball I love.
Was Robert going on the pitch?
I believe he was.
So it was basically the play from Major League where, Taylor bunts and Willie Mays Hayes scores from second to win the game.
Right, yeah. But the difference is here, Robert's on third.
Oh, I thought you said he got a single and stole second, and then he scored on the bunt.
No.
Okay, he was on third.
So I think how it went down was there was a, Robert stole second. I think there was a single, so he's at third base now. He's either a single or a ground out. And Zavala sack bunt right back to the pitcher, out at first. Robert scores.
Yep.
That's the baseball that we all wanted to see, and the broadcast team said it on the last night. Something we don't see enough of.
Yep. No, I mean, the White Sox have just been a really, really good team, start to finish. I mean, the Giants have been really, really good all year. The Dodgers are probably still the most talented team in baseball on paper.
Even though they frustrate me.
But
that's right.
Based on everybody I've seen this year and based on who I just think plays well night in, night out, if I had to pick a World Series matchup today, I really think it's Brewers-White Sox.
Yeah.
I really do.
It looks like it's looking that way.
The Brewers pitching doesn't give up runs, and the White Sox are just, I think, the best team in the AL.
Yeah, it looks, who would have thought we'd see White Sox Brewers World Series?
Who would have thought we'd be talking about the White Sox and Brewers maybe being the two best teams in the league?
It's, White Sox, Brewers, Giants. Who would have thought?
Old Giants, Reds. What is this year?
What's happening in baseball right now?
The Blue Jays? What?
The Twins are bad. The Padres.
The Cubs are really bad.
The Padres aren't as good as we thought they'd be, and the Brewers are fantastic.
Cubs might lose 95 games.
The White Sox are fantastic. The Giants are really good. What's happening in baseball?
I don't know. But the Reds are only one game out of the playoffs, so I'm okay with it.
I'm all right. Yeah, as am I. I think baseball is more fun this year than we've seen in a long time.
It's good to have a full season back. Last year was, it was interesting to see kind of the sprint to the finish, but when this year started and as this year's gone on, it made me realize just how much a 60-game season doesn't do baseball justice. You got to have that. You got to have that sprint.
And it came out
and this is the time for the sprint. It's not supposed to be just a season sprint. You're supposed to have teams that survive the dog days of summer. You're supposed to have teams that get off to strong starts. Can they hold their leads? Can they hold their divisions? All that kind of stuff. And now when we get to mid-August, this is where the sprint starts, and this is where you separate, the good teams from the common sports cliche, Parker. This is where we separate contenders from pretenders. We'll see if teams like the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, the Reds, the Padres, who's for real and who's going to come up short.
Oh, man. I just got something in my throat there. And it came out last night that the next Field of Dreams game next August will be Reds Cubs. Do
I blow through $1,500 for a ticket to Drysdale, Iowa?
I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. If you want to go see a game, wait till tickets come down in future years.
Just buy one of those commemorative tickets for like $20 on MLB.com and tell people I went.
Yeah, there you go. That's the. You got the right idea there.
Yeah, there you go. That's the middle class man's mentality. I bought the $20 replica ticket.
Poor man's baseball. Yeah. But that was really fun. That was so much fun. And baseball.
It's exciting to see the Reds there. And I know that the movie kind of starts it off with the White Sox story. And I think Reds White Sox would have been really cool. But I think also that Major League Baseball knew that if the Reds and White Sox played each other in any game, let alone the Field of Dreams game, that all that would be talked about was the 1919 World Series and the Black Sox scandal. And I don't think Major League Baseball wants to rip that Band-Aid off.
No, they don't. And even though it happened over 100 years ago, it's still
one of the biggest scandals in the history of sports.
Right. You talk about, as Noah walks by out there. Hi, Noah. But they are biggest sports scandals. That's a segment we can do at some point. But yeah, that Black Sox scandal is one that we that the baseball doesn't want to be talked about anywhere. But
no doubt about it.
I love that segment. That was so much fun.
That was fun.
College football now.
Yeah,
this is.
And while I get my my articles and stuff pulled up, I've been told by multiple people to watch this, but I know you saw it, the Malice in the Palace documentary on Netflix. Why don't you sum up for people how that was?
So, if you don't know, if you're I don't know if you're under a rock or just don't know basketball, but the Malice in the Palace is one of the biggest brawls, if you will, in sports history, and it happened in 2004 in Detroit in a game between the Pacers and the Pistons. both were very good teams at the time. Both had equal shots at the finals, but there was one of the biggest brawls or the biggest rivalries in in the Eastern Conference was Pistons Pacers, and so the Pacers go up there, and it was a great game all the way through, and with about a minute left in the game, Ben Wallace has a hard foul on Ron Artest has a hard foul on Ben Wallace, and Ben Wallace gets pushed and like shoved, if you will.
Yeah.
And it goes back and forth.
Ben Wallace is one of those guys. I mean, there's a lot of guys that you don't want to shove in professional sports. Ben Wallace is at the top of that list. Like 4-time Defensive Player of the Year, 6'9", but I mean, this dude looks like he came straight out of I got to be careful with how I word this. He looks like he was, trained in a government lab on how to fight. Like Ben Wallace was a bad dude.
Yeah, and so what eventually happened is the scuffling gets broken up, and then Ron Artest is laying on the scorer's table, which
a fan that dumped a drink on him.
A fan threw a beer from about 6 or 7 rows up, and Ron Artest was laying on the Meta World Peace, as he goes by now. At the time, Ron Artest was laying on the scorer's table, and you don't do that. Everybody knows you don't lay on the scorer's table. Somebody threw a beer at him, and then Ron Artest goes up in the stands. He snapped. He goes up in the stands, and an all-out brawl ensues.
And if I remember correctly, I haven't seen the documentaries. I don't know for sure, but didn't he beat the wrong fan?
He did. Beat the wrong guy, but it ended up in suspensions for Artest.
Longest suspension in sports history. Not sports history, but in basketball history.
It ended up in a season ending suspension for Ron Artest. Steven Jackson got suspended. Lots of Ben Wallace. There were so many suspensions. So if you want to see the whole story, watch the YouTube video of it first, and then go watch. It's called Untold: Malice at the Palace on Netflix. It's fantastic.
I've been told, again, I haven't seen it. I pick a night to just take an hour and watch it. But I've been told by multiple people that it's very unique and interesting because it almost makes you feel like Ron Artest was the victim.
It is, and I think the biggest victim coming out of, we'll talk about it, I'm sure, after you see it, but the biggest victim in all of it is Jermaine O'Neal, because he was having, a heck of a year up to that point. I honestly believe if that didn't happen, the Pacers would have won the finals that year. Yeah. They were that good. But what happened. So it's about an hour long on Netflix. Untold: Malice at the Palace. Go watch it if you have a free hour. But it's a great watch.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this. Conference USA, our final non-Power 5. And if you're just now joining us, I think what we're going to do this week for our daily football stuff is Conference USA today, SEC tomorrow, Big Ten Thursday, and then Friday will be our finale with a fantasy football mock draft live here in studio, and that'll be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast to do our mock, do our fantasy football mock. And I've always been, one of those guys that does a fantasy football draft right as training camp starts. Oh. And I've learned that you don't do that, because guys get hurt and then you're kind of screwed on your team. But I'm excited for it, to say the least.
Yeah, me too. All right, well, let's get started with the Conference USA. There's a lot of good teams in this conference, Parker. We have, in the East, teams that you've probably heard of. Western Kentucky's had a really strong couple of seasons. Florida Atlantic with Lane Kiffin, Marshall, and then in the West as well, Louisiana Tech, North Texas, Rice, and UAB. So not the biggest name schools, but, definitely if you're a football fan, you've heard of a lot of these programs and that they're doing great things. So let's get started with probably the biggest storyline, and that's Lane Kiffin's old school, Florida Atlantic, now with Ole Miss. But before he was, trying to bring Ole Miss back to the top of the SEC, he had brought Florida Atlantic to the top of Conference USA, and that's where they're projected to finish again this year. And I'm with Phil Steele on this one. This Florida Atlantic team looks really good. They went 5-4 a year ago. They're led by a very experienced head coach in Willie Taggart, and they have 10 returning starters on both sides of the ball. So I really like this team, led by Nikoy Saperi, the transfer from Miami, who got beat out by Derek King. So he gets a new start at Florida Atlantic, and I expect him to be first team all conference caliber.
Yeah, I do too. The guy's got a typical quarterback build. He's a bit on the slimmer side for a quarterback at 195 pounds, but he's tall. 6'4", so the guy can really sling it, like you said. Comes in as a transfer from Miami. So he's going to be, he's going to be the head guy for Willie Taggart here. So It's going to be an FAU team that had success under Lane Kiffin, but I think they're in a prime spot.
Yeah, I'm with you. And what really intrigues me, Parker, is I love that Willie Taggart isn't all in on stars from like high school recruits. Like, if we look at their receivers on the depth chart, they have TJ Chase, who's a former 4-star recruit, and he's got a lot of big, name to him. But in Willie Taggart's eyes, he's not the best receiver on this team. He has him third on the depth chart. Two guys he has ahead of him, the redshirt freshman Javion Posey and the senior John Mitchell, were both. Mitchell was a 2-star and Posey was a 1-star. So I respect the fact that Willie Taggart's not committed to 4 stars and trying to give them playing time if they don't earn it. I mean, if a 1-star outperforms a 4-star in practice, I'm all for letting the 1-star start.
And I think Taggart knows that, they're not a Power 5. They don't have, as much recruiting leverage as, the Power 5 schools do. And I think he plays that to their advantage, to where he knows on the very rare occasion that they do get a 4 or 5-star recruit, that he's incredibly lucky to get that, because I'm sure, those guys have Power 5 offers. Mm-hmm. And if they pick FAU, you're going to use those guys to their advantage. But he knows that he's not a favorite for these big name guys, and he uses that to their advantage and goes after hard some of these guys that are really good, lower rated recruits that are going to be good players for you.
Yeah, this is a large offensive line, Parker. A lot of guys that have size. Their right guard transferred from Auburn, as well as their left guard being 4th team All-Conference USA last year, Desmond Noel. So it's an offensive line with, I think, a lot of experience and a lot of talent. So I like this offense a lot. But this defense is really intriguing as well. A lot of juniors, a lot of seniors, but also some freshmen and sophomores. I think they do a really good job mixing the experience with the young talent.
Yeah, we've talked about it all summer long with some of these teams or units as a whole, and where a lot of them are experience heavy. Mm-hmm. Some of them are don't have as much experience, but when you find that good balance of upperclassmen and lower and underclassmen, there are guys that get a chance to learn from the more experienced players, and that makes them play better.
It sure does. And they start the year off in Gainesville on September 4th against the Florida Gators. Now, this team looks really, really good on paper. Right. I like this team a lot for one of the non-Power 5 schools. I don't see them beating the Florida Gators.
It's
in
Florida.
Florida's top 3 in the SEC. Let's be real.
Right.
We're going to talk about Florida a lot tomorrow. I could easily see Florida winning the SEC East.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah, it's
they're right there with Georgia.
Yeah, they are. And Kirby Smart's done a great job at Georgia, but that Florida team is never out of any, title.
No, and how good has Dan Mullen been at Florida?
Really good. Really good.
Yeah.
And then they have Georgia Southern, Fordham. They go to the Air Force Academy.
It's not a brutal schedule.
No,
after that Florida game, it really lightens up.
It's not that bad. I think, after that Florida game, Air Force will be tough. UAB is going to be tough. We talked to.
That's a big game.
They are. They're projected to win. I think it's they're projected to win the West.
Mm-hmm.
In the CUSA. So UAB is going to be a tough game. They go to Birmingham for that, and then Marshall's not going to be an easy one either.
At Western Kentucky as well.
Right.
Marshall's a team that we'll get to in a few minutes, but Phil Steele has them coming in 3rd. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they finished in the top 2, maybe even win this East division. I think Marshall's very, very underrated. I like their talent a lot.
Yeah, as do I. So I think this is, I think Phil Steele we're with Phil Steele and the talent that they have here at FAU, and they're the favorites for the East, and as they should be. So next one here we have
top tier name,
the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers,
top tier name
out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, and they're led by their quarterback Bailey Zapp, the senior, 6'2", 215. Zapp is a guy who is he comes in as a transfer from he's about 4 years at Houston Baptist, so he comes in and he's going to be the head guy for Tyson Helton.
Yeah, he is, and this is an exciting time for the Hilltoppers. I mean, last year they rocked with Tyrell Pigram, who, if you don't remember, Parker was at Maryland for a few years and then transferred to Western Kentucky. He did all right.
Yeah.
But now, like you said, they're going with Bailey Zapp. Bailey Zapp was at Houston Baptist through 78 touchdowns. Now, he is a little bit turnover prone, 39 interceptions and 36 starts. But this is a guy with just an absolute cannon of an arm. 10,000 yards, 78 touchdowns across 4 seasons, or 3 seasons, I should. That's ridiculous. 10,000 yards in 3 seasons and almost 80 touchdowns. I mean, this is a guy that has a lot of expectations. He's kind of, he's definitely an air raid kind of guy. He's just a grip it and rip it sort of quarterback.
Yeah, and our friend Elliot just heard he heard your Cardinals call out.
Was he listening to the show, or did you let him know?
I told him, and he said Shea did me dirty.
I did.
But
I still think he's a cool guy.
He is. But I like this running back a lot. Adam Cofield, he's a senior here, and he is, a guy who is, he spent 4 years at North Dakota State. Had 11 starts, 1,500 yards in 4 years there. He'll be the starting back here for the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, he will. A lot of transfers on this roster, Parker. We have Jalen Davis, the junior receiver, coming from Oregon. We have Jareth Stearns, the senior receiver, coming from Houston Baptist with Zap. Like you mentioned, Cofield coming from North Dakota State. We have an offensive lineman coming from Michigan, another offensive lineman coming from Nebraska. They're really building this roster from the transfer portal.
Right.
And, I mean, we've seen that work for a lot of teams.
Yeah, and Tyson Helton is one of those guys who, transfer heavy. And I think that's where a lot of these, non-Power 5 schools get a majority of their great players, and that it's through the transfer portal, and developing those lower star recruits here. So this defense, it looks like a strong unit.
Yeah, and before we get to the defense really quick, I just want to say that I'm really excited to watch Western Kentucky's offense this year because their offensive coordinator is what's his name? Zach Kitley, who he spent 3 seasons as the offensive or as an assistant under Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech when Mahomes was there. So with a guy like Bailey Zapp and the throwing stats he put up at Houston Baptist with 3 really good receivers in Tinsley, Stearns, and Davis, I think this could be the non-Power 5 version of Texas Tech this year. They could be 500 passing yards a game kind of team.
Yeah, and this Hilltopper team has co-OCs.
Mm-hmm.
One of them being Kitley and the other being Brian Ellis, who was the quarterback coach at USC a few years back, and and then they have Maurice Crum as their their first year DC here. So this coaching staff looks strong.
It does.
I like it.
It's one of the better ones for sure.
Yeah, and they look like a strong group here. So this is a team that I think they're going to be a great team for sure. And of course they'll get back their one of their leading tacklers from last year in Antoine Kincaid,
Mm-hmm.
the senior strong safety, 5'11", 200 pounds here, and he
former 1-star recruit too.
Right, so he had 85 tackles a year ago, with 8 pass defense. So he's going to be one of their key guys here on this defense.
He is, and if you talk Western Kentucky defense, it starts with D'Angelo Malone, the senior defensive end, 6'4", 240. This guy last year, a former 2-star recruit, but this guy last year was just absolutely ridiculous. 12 starts, 71 tackles, 6 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. He was Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year and first team All-Conference. So if this defense, this offense looks really strong, this team looks really strong, but this defense thrives on getting to the quarterback, and nobody in this conference does that better than D'Angelo Malone.
No, he like you said, led the team with 6 sacks a season ago. Was first team CUSA. It's first team CUSA honors last season. So one of the stronger players here for their DC, and that's Crum. So this defense is a strong one for sure.
It is. It's a good team.
It is. A good all around team, and I think they're going to have a chance to challenge for the East.
I agree. I think that there's definitely less experience on this team. Only 6 returning starters on offense, 4 on defense. So I think Florida Atlantic, at least right out the gate, is going to have the edge because of the experience they have coming back.
Yeah.
But I think you could argue that Western Kentucky is just as talented.
Right. And it's a big but. They have a tougher schedule than FAU does.
They do.
They open up the year with UT Martin. I think it's a winnable game for them. Right after that, they go to West Point, take on Army. Bye week, host the IU Hoosiers. They have a lot of some really tough Big Ten opponents. With Indiana, right after Indiana, they travel to East Lansing and take on Michigan State.
Right.
Texas, San Antonio, FIU. FAU, Marshall. This is a tougher schedule than FAU has.
Now, something I will say, the Indiana game is going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Indiana's a really good football team. When we talk about the Big Ten on Thursday, we'll talk more about Indiana. I could easily see this might be a hot take because of teams like Michigan and Penn State. I could easily see Indiana coming second in the East.
Yeah.
To Ohio State.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah. And
Indiana's a really good football team.
they have
Tom Allen's one of my favorite coaches in all of college football.
Oh, yeah. And that Ohio State IU game was closer than everybody thought it was going to be last season.
They had Justin Fields playing. They were one of like 3 teams in the career of Justin Fields that made him play uncomfortable.
Right. And if you can make any Ohio State quarterback play uncomfortable, you're going to have a shot.
Exactly. Ohio State's usually got a Heisman contender at quarterback, and if you can make him just play average instead of elite, you've got a shot.
Right. And that's one thing that we're going to look at with Indiana coming up tomorrow. So I
think the Indiana game is going to be really hard.
Right.
Army will be another tough game because of just the way that they play, that triple option offense. It's so hard to prepare for that. I honestly think that Michigan State game is very winnable.
It is.
Michigan State's not the Michigan State of 3-4 years ago.
No.
That's still, it's still a Big Ten school in East Lansing, which is a tough place to play. But I think this Western Kentucky team, especially 3 games into the season, a few reps on the field together, I think they're capable of beating that team.
Right. They are. And the D'Antonio to Mel Tucker transition has been shaky and a bit of a struggle to say the least. But like you said, I think it's a winnable game for the Hilltoppers.
I agree. Their conference schedule is not insanely difficult. They do not have to play UAB, and they get FAU at home, so late in the season. So that FAU Western Kentucky game on November 20th could end up being a very, very big game for the state of the East. And really, their last 2 games could end up being huge because, I think it's a 3-team race in the East between FAU, Western Kentucky, and Marshall, who we'll get to in just a second. But Western Kentucky ends the year at home against FAU, and then they head to Huntsville, West Virginia to take on the Marshall Thundering Herd.
Yeah, and both those games are going to be huge, insanely difficult. And both are winnable, but they're going to be difficult to say the least. This next one, Marshall Thundering Herd,
brand new head coach Charles Huff.
Yeah. So and then they're going to have the the redshirt freshman Grant Wells, back at quarterback here for the Thundering Herd. Last season had was about 61% passer with 2,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks. Solid for him last year.
Yeah.
And he, they're gonna Huff gets him back as their starting quarterback, and then you have the second leading rusher on the team from a season ago as your starter. They lose Brendan Knox, who was their leading rusher a season ago with about 900 yards rushing. Sheldon Evans, 5'11", 200 pounds here is a guy who's a strong player for him as well. He had about 350 yards rushing last year, 4 touchdowns. So he takes over the starting duties here. One guy that I really love on this offense is the sophomore receiver Corey Gamage, 6'4", 230, big guy on this offense here. He was their leading,
almost like tight end size,
right? And he was their leading receiver last year with 400 yards, 4 touchdowns. This offense looks strong.
It does. Now, with the 3 contenders we talked about in the East, I think this is I don't want to say the weakest offense. I think it's the offense with the most question marks. I think they have the least experience together. I think they have the least amount of reps together. But 2 positions that I really think they do better than the other 2 that we talked about. Tight end. Xavier Gaines is the best tight end in Conference USA. Senior, 6'3", 220. Former 4-star recruit. Found his way to Marshall. And last year, Parker, he was excellent. 3 starts, 520 yards. Parker, that's averaging... Let me do some quick math in my head. That's averaging like 180 yards a game as a tight end. That's nuts. And not only is he the best tight end in Conference USA, he's probably one of the best 10 best tight ends in America. Yeah. He probably is. And something else that I really like about this team, biggest offensive line in the conference, and it's not even close. Their center, 6'3", 295. That's as small as it gets. Right guard, 6'5", 320. Left guard, 6'4", 325. Right tackle, 6'4", 330. Left tackle, 6'5", 315. This is a bunch of big guys, and they're going to definitely set the tone down low in the trenches. And football games are won in the trenches, Parker, and Marshall looks like they're set up the best to win games in the trenches.
Sheldon Evans certainly has a heck of an offensive line in front of him to open up, part the Red Sea, if you will. For
with Western Kentucky, it will literally be parting the Red Sea.
Yeah. So and parting the Green Sea there in Huntington, West Virginia for the Marshall, the Thundering Herd. So this defense is another one that I like a lot.
They got some fun names on this defense too.
We've seen all summer some fun names.
How about these linebackers? So let's start off with the linebackers. I'll probably butcher these, but first of all, the punter, Robert Lefevre. That's great. Naziz Johnson at safety. But these linebackers, this is top tier. You have Abraham Boaplon. Is it Boaplon or Boaplon?
One of the other.
Abraham Boaplon. And then their sub linebacker was really, really good. Their senior captain, who's a transfer from Delaware, Brian Cavalcante. That's a great name.
Oh, we've seen some fun names, and going through this this magazine here all summer. This Marshall Thundering Herd defense.
Kobe Kunderlander on the defensive line.
Man,
this is great.
There is some,
and it's funny because their best player on defense is probably their middle linebacker, who might have the most basic name of anybody on this roster, Eli Neal.
Right. He had 75 tackles last season with one pick, and
just a true sophomore. He's still getting better.
Yeah, he is, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him as a potential first team guy.
He could be a defensive player of the year candidate at middle linebacker.
Yeah, and he's a potential first team guy in the CUSA here. So this defense is going to be another one that's going to be strong in this conference. I think their offense is better, but this defense is certainly not a pushover by any means. They start the year with Navy at the Naval Academy in Annapolis.
And now Navy is not the same team they were 2 or 3 years ago. No. They've taken a step back. That'll still be a tough game, though. It's always hard to play the service academies, especially on the road. But after that, NC Central, East Carolina out of the that's a conference game, right? Eastern Carolina's in the
I don't think it
Conference
is.
USA.
I don't. Are they?
I can't remember.
They're not. What conference
Are they independent now? I thought they used to be in
No,
CUSA.
we talked about them in one of our conference.
I thought they used to be CUSA.
What are they in?
My
Good
Lord.
What?
Oh, they're in the American, aren't they?
That's right.
They used to be in CUSA, though.
Yeah.
They did used to be in CSA. So I am half right.
I knew
credit.
I knew we talked about them at some point.
What I'm looking at, Parker, what's going to be a really big test for them right before conference schedule starts, I think this team can compete, can contend. But we'll find out a lot about if they can contend or not on September 23rd at App State. That's one of the best non-Power 5 teams in all of college football. If you can go down there and compete with App State, you don't even need to beat them, in my opinion. If you can make it a tough game, a close game, if you go on the road and lose by 3 to App State, that commands a lot of respect from the teams in this conference because that says, oh, geez, they can hang with some big boys.
It does, and there is a lot of those type of schools that are not Power 5 but really strong teams.
App State could beat a lot of Power 5 schools.
They could. I think this is one of the easier ones, easier schedules as a whole in this conference. To this point.
I think it's the easiest one we've seen.
They have Navy to start the year. We talked about East Carolina, App State. They have Middle Tennessee. And then you start conference play with North Texas, FIU, FAU, UAB, Charlotte, and Western Kentucky.
After the bye, it gets a little tough.
It does.
But really, App State's the only game in that first half that I would say they'd be underdogs in.
Right. So, next one. What do we got here?
Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders.
Another really fun name. I love that one.
And what's funny is, I don't know if you ever played the old college football video games.
Oh, yeah.
NCAA Football 06, one of my favorite games of all time. I loved playing quarterback for Middle Tennessee because, just those Blue Raider uniforms were so cool.
They are.
The blue and silver. Oh, it's so good. And they're led by a really good coach in his 16th season, Rick Stockstill.
Yeah. Lots of fun. More fun names on this team, Shay. Their wide receiver, one of their smaller slot wide receivers in DJ England Chisholm.
Great.
The sophomore, a slot guy at 5'7", 150,
Yep.
so he's a smaller, shifty guy here on this offense. But they're led by the junior quarterback Bailey Hockman, in his first season at Middle Tennessee State. Has spent his previous 2 years at NC State. Compiling 11 starts, 2,600 yards, 14 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. So
turnover happy.
Yeah,
but he has a good arm.
Right, he does. So he's going to be the leading man here. For Rick Stockstill, and then you have the starting back Amir Rasul, the senior, another transfer, 30 games, 200 yards at Florida State in 3 years there, so he's going to be the starting back here.
And what I'm noticing in the modern era of college football, the transfer portal era, if you will, we're seeing a lot more 4- and 5-star recruits land up at places like this. Amir Rasul out of high school was a 5-star guy, went to Florida State. If you're a football player going to Florida State, you got a lot of credit to your name. You're one of the top high school football players in the country if you're going to Florida State. And now here he is at Middle Tennessee State. And before the transfer portal, I don't think we'd ever see a guy with this kind of stature at a school like Middle Tennessee State. But that's the era we live in now. And it's really cool to see some of these quote unquote no name schools get some really, really good football players.
Yeah, it's really fun. And this is a really fun conference to say the least. Another big offensive line here, Shay. The smallest guy on this offensive line is 6', 290. That's the center, Jordan Palmer. After that, 6'4", 320, the right guard.
Yep.
The left guard is 6'4", 315. Right tackle is 6'4", 303. And then their left tackle is 6'4", 290.
It's funny that the left tackle is the smallest guy.
Yeah. And so it's real interesting, to say the least, on this offensive line. Another big offensive line.
Yeah. Now, Parker, this team has experience. They have 9 returning starters on offense. They have 10 returning starters on defense. But personally, in my opinion, I like, there's parts of this team that I really like. But I think there's a drop. There's a tier drop off after Marshall. I think Marshall, Western Kentucky, and FAU are the 3 contenders in the Eastern Division. I think that Middle Tennessee can compete for a bowl game, but I just don't see them competing for a championship the way I see those first 3.
No, it's.
I think it's a drop.
Yeah, there is certainly a drop here. This defense is another one that's experienced. You have their best player is the free safety Reed Blankenship. The senior was their leading tackler last season with 76 tackles, 1 pass defense, no picks. He was their leading tackler last year. Lots of returning guys on this defense, as well as on the defensive line. You have so much talent here. You have one of their ends here is Richard Kinley, the redshirt freshman here. It comes in, he had 4 games as a redshirt freshman with 1 start. So this is a guy who you want to look for if you're a quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think what I've heard, when you watch this team's defense, you're going to want to watch out for the Jalens. The sub linebacker Jalen Davis, who is really, really good. He's a little undersized, 6'1", 196, a little bit more like a safety build at linebacker.
More of a hybrid player.
Yeah, he's a very, very speedy guy. He comes off the edge at amazing quickness and athleticism. And then their top corner, Jalen Jackson, 6'2", 170, outstanding size for a corner. So I think you'll hear a lot of plays made this fall by Middle Tennessee's defense from the Jalens, Davis and Jackson. Both of those guys, I think, are poised for big years.
Yeah, both of them, certainly are. Their schedule is not difficult. It's not.
It's pretty similar to the first 2 we saw today. I think Marshall's one is a little easier than the other 3 we've seen today, but this one's pretty similar to FAU and Western Kentucky's.
Yeah, they start the year with Monmouth at home. Week 2 is going to be real tough. They go to Virginia Tech to play the Hokies. You have Marshall. Liberty is one that's real tough.
Don't sleep on that October 9th game. I know they start off conference play with Charlotte and Marshall, and it's like, oh, well, we're getting to the swing of conference play. No, at Liberty is going to be one heck of a tough game.
Sure is. And then further down, you have Southern Mississippi as their homecoming game, at Western Kentucky, FIU, and then they end the year at Florida Atlantic.
And they also got that game out of the bye week against UConn.
Yeah.
So, it's not a ton of. They're not playing any ranked teams. They're not playing any Floridas or Georgias or Alabama or Ohio State or whatever. But there's 4 or 5 games with really, really solid teams, and a lot of them are road games.
Yeah, and it's going to be a tough, a tough start. But like you said, very similar to those first 2 schedules we saw today.
The FIU Panthers, Florida International. They are led by one of the greatest names I've ever heard from a college football quarterback, Parker. It is the senior Max Bortenschlager.
That one's fun.
It's a good name.
Could you imagine Bortenschlager? Touchdown.
I'm kind of glad I'm not calling FIU football this fall.
I am too.
Because I'm glad I don't have hundreds of opportunities to mess up the name Bortenschlager.
Yeah, me too. Very fortunate that we don't have big names.
Thank you for all the Smiths and Stevensons and all of you here at Wright State. There's no Bortenschlagers on Wright State's campus.
No, there's not. Thank the Lord for that. But this is an FAU team or an FIU team. Sorry about that, but an FIU team that's they aren't a favorite by any means in this conference, but they're not a pushover by any means.
No, there's talent there for sure. Butch Davis is a great coach, and I think that he'll right this ship eventually. But this is a team coming off of an 0-5 season, and really their last 2 years have been tough. They went 6-7 and then 0-5. But the 2 years before that, they went a combined 17-9. So this is a team that has seen success before under Butch Davis, and I think they will get back there. I just don't think it's this year because I don't think they can compete with those top three, very similarly to Middle Tennessee. They do have a lot of seniors on this team, both offensively and defensively. And with 10 minutes left in the show, I'm not going to get into it as much as I want to. But it's just a team that I think has the experience, very similarly to Middle Tennessee State. Has experience, but just doesn't have the same talent that the top three in this division do.
Right, and if that name Butch Davis sounds familiar to any of you Ohioans around here, he was the head coach of the Cleveland Browns from 01 to 04. So
the Browns good then? I'm just kidding. No, they were not.
I was going to say, is that a question?
In his defense, the Browns haven't been good since, until this past year. The Browns weren't good since like 1958.
Right. So this is a team that overall I think is going to be solid, but not a favorite in this conference.
No, I'm with you, and I don't think they go 0-5 again this year. I don't think that happens, but I do think that this team is still a year, maybe 2 years away from competing. But this team has won underneath Butch Davis, and I think they will win again under Butch Davis. I just don't think this is the year.
I think so. I don't think so either. They certainly have some tough games on this schedule. We're just going to go over the quick ones that stand out to us.
With going to be a tough game.
10 minutes in the show. Texas Tech in Lubbock is going to be a tough one. Then they go to Central Michigan. FAU.
Solid school out of the MAC.
Yeah, for sure. And then you have FAU, as you get into conference play, to start conference play. So this schedule is, it's their conference play isn't too difficult, but they certainly have some tough non-cons.
No, it's not insane, but it's not great either. I think it's a team that, again, like Middle Tennessee, probably ends up with 5, 6, 7 wins. That's kind of where I see them. I think the top three all win 9. And I think these next two that we talked about will probably end up right about 6 and 6. Yeah. Charlotte, the Charlotte 49ers, led by the very talented Chris Reynolds. This is a team that just doesn't have a lot of experience. 5 starters on defense coming back, 8 starters on offense. Will Healy, the third-year head coach. But it's just a lot of youth. And so they're kind of the opposite of Middle Tennessee and Florida International, where those two had talent or had experience but didn't necessarily have equal talent. This team just doesn't have experience. And I think that's what's really going to hold them back this year. That and, they have 2 pretty tough non-conference games with, I guess 3 if you count Georgia State. But they take on Duke and Illinois, who are not the cream of the crop in their conferences, but still, 2 Power 5 games, never easy.
No, not at all. And like you said, led by third-year head coach Will Healy, who was formerly the head coach at Austin Peay. So they have some talent. I don't think they'll go 2-4 again.
They have more than 6 games, so they definitely won't go 2-4
so
again.
I don't think they're going to be if I can do something.
I'd guess 5 wins.
Yeah, I
maybe 6.
Very close. They're a fringe bowl team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say they're one of, we talk about, the bubble teams in college basketball for March Madness. This is a bubble team for a bowl game.
Right.
Let's quickly move on to Old Dominion. Old Dominion is led by Daryl Mack, the junior quarterback, and they have Ricky Rainey?
I'm going to say Ron.
Ricky Ron? Okay.
Ron is a good, I don't know, might be wrong.
It's his second year as head coach. His first year, I'm sure he'd like to have back. They went 1-11. This is an Old Dominion team that just hasn't really seen a lot of success since 2016. Their last 5 years, Parker, 4 of them have not been very good. And then there's 2016 where they went 10-3. So they'd love to bring that back. But again, I just don't think it's this year. 3 returning starters on defense. This defense is going to be very, very young. This offense just doesn't have the talent to stack up to some of these teams in the conference. And they have to play Wake Forest on the road. They have to play Liberty on the road. And they also have to play Marshall and Western Kentucky in consecutive weeks, and then later on in the year, take on FAU as well.
Yeah, and it's not going to be easy by any means. I don't think they go 1-11 again, like you said.
I'd say though, like 3-9.
Yeah, with that one win last year came against Norfolk State, and they barely squeaked it out, won 24-21 to start the year last year. So they were 1-0 and then lost their next 11. So
yeah,
we'll.
UAB, really quickly.
Yeah.
Tyler Johnston is going to be their starting quarterback. A guy that I really like on this team, though, Parker, that I really, really, really like, and I think he's capable of being one of the top guys in this conference, is Trey Shropshire, 6'3", 190. First of all, he has a chance to be one of the top guys in this conference for that name. Touchdowns to Shropshire. Are you kidding me? But this is a junior college transfer that had 300 yards in 3 starts last year. He's 6'3", 190, really good size for a receiver in this conference. And I think he gives he gives Tyler Johnston a weapon that he really hasn't had in his first 2 years at UAB.
Could you imagine if Max Bortenschlager was on this team? You'd have to call Bortenschlager to Shropshire. Those poor, I feel terrible for the broadcast team if that was the case. But like
Parker,
you said,
this is the toughest schedule we've seen today.
Oh yeah, by far.
Georgia in Athens. That's a tough game.
Yeah, they start the year with Jacksonville State, and then you travel to Athens to take on Georgia, play the Mean Green of North Texas, and then you have Tulane, Liberty, Rice is going to be
FAU to start off conference schedule,
and then you have La Tech at home. So
Rice,
yeah. So this is a really tough schedule to say the least. For Bill Clark and the Blazers.
This Blazers team won 6-3 a year ago. I think that personally, I think the East is tougher than the West in this conference. I think this team probably wins 8 games.
And I think they might be a little bit better than that. They won the CUSA last year. So I think that they are going to be better than most people think.
Okay. Let's move on to our next team.
So I think that what we're going to do here is we're going to rush through these real quick, and we'll come back and give our predictions.
Sounds good.
Okay.
UTSA, the Roadrunners. I remember when this team came into college football back in 2013. There were 3 new teams that year: the UMass Minutemen, the UTSA Roadrunners, and the Texas State Bobcats. But UTSA ends up here with Frank Harris as their quarterback, and this is a team that doesn't have anywhere nearly as tough of a schedule as UAB, and they actually have a lot of returning starters. Every single starter on defense coming back, and all but one on offense coming back. They start off the season with a tough game against Illinois, but then after that, it's really pretty reasonable. I don't know if I'm willing to say that this team edges out UAB. I think we'll obviously see that as time goes on. But I do think it's UAB's biggest competition in the West, just because of the experience that they have.
Yeah, and I think it's certainly valid that they have an easier schedule. Their opening game. Illinois is not a top tier team in the Big Ten, but it's still a Big Ten team.
Yeah.
So I think that this is certainly one of the teams in this conference that I think will be a little bit better. They're a newer team to college football, but I think they have talent.
They do. Louisiana Tech Bulldogs coming in here next. Again, we apologize for having to fly through this, but they're led by Luke Anthony, the senior. A guy that I really like on this team, Parker, is their top wide receiver, Isaiah Graham, the senior. This is just a big play guy. He's the guy that makes a ton of plays to win this team games, and he's going to be a big impact player for this offense. They went 5-5 a year ago. They're led by Skip Holtz.
Great name as a head coach.
Great name. But their schedule is tougher than UTSA's, but it's still not as tough as UAB's. They take on Mississippi State and NC State on the road, and then SMU at home. So it's a pretty tough non-conference schedule, but they do play UAB on the road. But good news for them, they don't have to play Western Kentucky, Marshall, or FAU. So they avoid the tough teams on the east side of the bracket.
Yeah, and one guy that stands out to me real quickly on this offense is their 5'6", 180 wide receiver, Davon Smoke Harris. You got to be pretty dang fast to have the nickname Smoke, and he certainly is that. So real quick.
Well, when you're 5'6", you better outrun him.
Yeah, got to. So real quickly, these last few, and then we'll hit our top of the hour, come back and give our.
Yeah, Southern Miss went 3-7 a year ago, but they have a lot of returning players led by their starting quarterback Trey Lowe, the sophomore. Their schedule reasonable, pretty easy, other than a game at the end of September against Alabama.
Yeah,
I don't think they will win that game. But other than that, I think it's a team that definitely takes a step forward in the right direction this year. I have them winning 6 games.
Yeah, I think that's very, very reasonable. Will Hall is in his first year here, but I think they're going to be a talented team.
North Texas, the Mean Green. They went 4-6 a year ago. A lot of returning talent, 10 on defense, 9 on offense. They're led by their head guy, Austin. Is that Ain? Is that his? Austin
On?
Austin On?
I think I want to
say. I don't know.
We'll say On to be safe.
Okay, Austin On. This is one of the tougher schedules we've seen today. At SMU, UAB at home, at Louisiana Tech, at Missouri and Connor Bazelak, who I'm very excited to talk about tomorrow. They also take on Rice and Liberty and Marshall. So, this is one of the tougher schedules we've talked about today. Seth Littrell in his 6th year here. I still think it has the talent and the experience to be one of those fringe bowl teams. So I have them winning somewhere between 5 and 7 games.
Yeah, I think that's valid. They have some history of being good under Luttrell. In 17 and 18, both years had 9 wins. So I think they have the talent there to be a solid team. So real quickly, we'll take our top of the hour break and then come back.
We'll hit Rice and UTEP when we come back, and then give our conference predictions.
Sounds good. So stay with us. The end of this segment, end of the show, when we come back here on Testa Neal, keep it real.
Every day, men and women from communities across this nation serve as Reserve Citizen Airmen.
I am proud to defend our nation.
Proud to be part of a team that helps make a difference.
I am proud to be part of something larger than me.
We celebrate those who have served and those who are proudly serving in the Air Force Reserve. Our mission is to fly, fight, and win in air, space, and cyberspace.
I am proud to be a member. I am proud to protect.
Proud to serve in the U.S. Air Force Reserve.
AFReserve.com.
Hey everyone, check out Rush Week 2021, presented by Alpha Sig Eta Psi here on campus. To find out more information, check out their Instagram at ALPHASIGS_WSU. You're gonna love it.
Hey, this is Mac Miller, and you're listening to WWSU, Dayton's Right Choice.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you wanna come and text us,
If you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
This is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
For those fortunate enough to help the person who has always been their hero, AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
In the wake of a disaster, what one thing can you send that will help people the most? A blanket, a tent, a sandbag, a doctor. Actually, if you send a monetary donation, you send all these things. Even a small donation can make a big impact and can quickly become exactly what people affected by disaster need most.
In the wake of a hurricane, your monetary donation can make a huge difference to those in need. To donate, visit supporthurricanerelief.org. That's supporthurricanerelief.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Kesson. I am a nursing major here at Wright State, and you're listening to WWSU 106.9 Dayton's Right Choice.
You are listening to Testa and Neal. Keep it real right here on Dayton's Right Choice, WWSU 106.9 FM. Back here on Testa and Neal, keep it real. Quick break for you, and then we're gonna finish out our CUSA conference preview with about 2 or 3 more teams, and then we'll give our predictions. So next up, the Rice Owls. They're led by their redshirt freshman quarterback Luke McCaffrey.
Obviously the younger brother of Christian McCaffrey.
Right, yeah. So last year, he comes in as a transfer from Nebraska. You had 2 starts a season ago with 600 yards. Played very well in those 2 starts. At 304 yards a game, if you can do some quick math, like I struggle with sometimes, but we worked it out there. So he is a transfer from Nebraska, spent 2 years there. So
did he start his career at Michigan, or was that Dylan that started his career at Michigan?
I think it's Dylan.
I think Dylan McCaffrey was at Michigan.
Right.
I think you're right. So.
Yeah.
There's so many McCaffrey brothers, it's hard to keep track of them all. It's like the freaking Kardashians of sports.
Led by Ed, the Broncos wide receiver,
Facts.
formerly. So
Facts.
This Rice team is I think, they're led by Mike Bloomgren, the 4th-year head coach. I think they're a team that I think can compete in some games, but they're not going to be towards the top.
No. This is a team that I could see winning like 6, maybe even 7. But it's also a team that I wouldn't be that surprised if they won 4. Yeah. It's a kind of a wide range that I could see them doing this year. And their schedule, they start off the year against Arkansas, which a couple of years ago that would have been a pretty easy game. But Arkansas, Sam Pittman has the Arkansas Razorbacks trending up. So this is a much tougher Arkansas team than it was a few years ago. They also have the Houston Cougars at Texas and Steve Sarkisian. So those first 3 games are really tough. I think it's pretty likely that they start off the year 0-3. And it's just kind of hard to dig yourself out of that 0-3 hole to get to bowl season.
The UTEP Miners, led by their sophomore quarterback Gavin Hardison, in his 2nd year here at UTEP.
And we talked about how many great names there are on the rosters, but this is one of the better coaching names we've seen so far this year. Dana Diemel.
Yeah, it sure is. Formerly head coach at Wyoming and at Houston. So he is in his 4th year here at UTEP. This is a team that I think is going to be towards the bottom of this conference.
Yeah.
They went 3-5 a season ago, winless in conference play, and I think they're going to have a similar storyline this season.
Yeah, this is a team that I think wins somewhere between 3 and 5 games. The good news is they do have all 11 of their starters coming back on offense. The bad news is it's just not a really good offense. So I'm with you. I don't think that UTEP is a contender by any means this year, and I think they'll struggle to find themselves even in the middle of the pack in the Conference USA.
They start the year with New Mexico State at New Mexico State, and then further down you go to Boise and take on the Boise State Broncos. That's going to be tough on that blue turf there in Boise. And then you have La Tech, New Mexico, and then your conference play. The last 5 is going to be real tough with FAU, UTSA, North Texas, Rice, and UAB to end the year.
Yeah, it's a tough schedule for sure. It's a schedule, like I said, I think this team wins probably 4 games. So I don't think that many teams will have to worry about the UTEP Miners as a threat this season. So,
prediction time, Shay.
Yeah, let's do this.
So I'll go first.
Okay.
I think in the East, FAU wins. Okay. It's going to be close. I think Western Kentucky and FAU are going to come down to the wire. Yeah. I think the only way that Western Kentucky wins this conference is if they, the offense struggles with FAU late in the year. But I think Florida Atlantic is my favorite. Western Kentucky is number 2. I think Middle Tennessee is 3rd in the East. I think they're a strong team. So Marshall will be 4, FIU 5, Charlotte 6, Old Dominion will be 7.
Okay, I'm gonna go with, for the sake of debate, I'm gonna pick Western Kentucky to win the East. I got FAU 2, Marshall 3, FIU 4, Middle Tennessee 5. I still think they're 1 year away. I think that they kind of need that roster reset after all these experienced guys graduate. I do have Charlotte 6 though, and Old Dominion 7 as well. So Florida Atlantic could easily win. I could easily see that happening.
Yeah.
But I think them and Western Kentucky are neck and neck talent wise. So since you picked FAU, I'll pick Western Kentucky. So one of us has to be right here in a few months.
Western Kentucky certainly has the better quarterback, and Bailey's out. But so for the West, UAB wins. I think.
I agree.
I think they're a strong enough team to win this one. I think La Tech comes in second. I do.
Interesting.
As good as Texas San Antonio is, I think La Tech is second. UTSA will be 3. North Texas is 4 for me. I think they're a strong team.
Yeah.
The Mean Green are a strong team. Southern Miss 5, Rice 6, and UTEP will be 7.
See, I'm with you. I have UAB 1. I'm actually a little bit higher on North Texas than you are. I have UTSA 2, but I have North Texas 3.
Okay.
Louisiana Tech 4, Southern Miss 5, Rice 6, UTEP 7. So that brings both of us. Your conference championship game, UAB and FAU. Who do you have in that one?
I like UAB.
Okay.
I really like UAB to win this conference again.
And in mine, it's UAB and Western Kentucky. I like UAB a lot, but I think, like I said, Western Kentucky has really strong players on defense. I think they have potentially the best player in this conference on defense, defensive end. I got to pull him up again because I already forgot. D'Angelo Malone.
Right.
I think they have maybe the best defensive player in the conference, and their offense is built to play exactly like Cliff Kingsbury and Texas Tech from a couple of years ago. I think this is a team that easily averages 30 points a game, and I think their defense makes enough plays. I have the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers winning Conference USA.
Well, that's all, folks. We that was a really,
really.
really. You don't have to do that.
You said that's all, folks. I had to end it with the Looney Tunes jingle. We probably just got copyrighted for that by Warner Bros.
But really fun show today. Of course, we will be back to our remote.
Tomorrow's SEC day, so bring your Southern hats because we're going to Bama, we're going to Georgia, we're going to Florida, and a team that I'm really excited about that's maybe not a contender in the SEC, but is definitely a team on the rise, the Missouri Tigers and Connor Bazelak, the altar kid.
Sure. So of course I do have to go back to Indiana tonight, so we will be back to our remote setting. Nope, just kidding. We were no more.
He's back, baby.
No more remote shows. We're live in studio for the rest of the week, and we're looking forward to that. So
here's to hope the Reds beat up on the Cubs again tonight.
So really great show today. Thank you all for all of you who joined us on YouTube and right here on WWSU 106.9. We really appreciate it. Shay, any final thoughts?
No, it was just great to be back in studio. I had a blast, and this is how the show was meant to be. It's good to have it back, and I'm excited for the rest of the week. SEC tomorrow, Big Ten on Thursday, and fantasy football draft on Friday. It should be a fun way to end the summer.
I'm real excited. It's going to be a blast over the next couple days. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Whether you are on YouTube or WWSU 106.9, we will see you tomorrow right here on Testa and Neal. Keep it real.